Damian Lillard has finally requested a trade from Portland, and everybody is focusing on Brooklyn and Miami. Those are the two destinations, primarily Miami. Those are the teams that Damian Lillard has to go to, right? No. There is a perfect Damian Lillard trade that solves the problems of multiple high-profile teams. First, let's take a look at the objective of all three of these teams. First and foremost, Portland. They want to send Dame to a situation in which he can win, in which he can contend, where he goes to a team that has an opportunity to legitimately win a title. They also want to make sure that they're getting back assets that help them build their team of the future around Scoot Henderson, around Shaedon Sharpe, potentially around Anthony Simons. They want young players. They want draft assets. That combination is exactly what they're looking for in exchange for Damian Lillard. A team that could possibly provide that would be the Philadelphia 76ers, a team that is trying to solve its own superstar issue at the moment, that being James Harden, who has requested a trade out of Philadelphia. And if that was granted, there's not really a lot of outcomes there that allows Philly to bring back a star in exchange for James Harden. And by the way, Damian Lillard is not the guy that they're going to get in exchange specifically for James Harden in the scenario. What they really need is another star to put alongside Joel Embiid, someone that can keep Embiid there, a player that is an MVP caliber guy, someone that can absolutely be the primary player on a championship winning team. And they're not ready to go into a rebuild now, trading away James Harden. They still need to push for contention. And Damian Lillard is a gigantic upgrade over who James Harden is at this point in his career. And then you have the LA Clippers, a team that has had this weird roster construction for the entirety of the time that Kawhi and Paul George have been there. They traded away SGA in order to get Paul George, not knowing that he was going to be a first-team All-NBA caliber player. And they've been looking for an offensive initiator, a guy that's going to lead the team on the perimeter since they brought those two guys together. The little secret of this Clippers era has been, yes, of course, these guys are hurt all the time and there's a lot of disappointment there, but they've never had a guard in this era that they can just say, hey, here's the ball, go run a pick and roll, get everybody organized, and let's get a good shot out of that. They've always had a bit of a clunky offense that relies on Kawhi mid-rangers and Paul George taking a lot of threes. They've never had a creator, a guy that sets everyone else up. And if they want to try and continue to try this one more time, push for contention again with Paul George and Kawhi and not give up either of those guys, and they can still get a perimeter creator type player, that is an ideal trade for them. So let's solve each of those problems. For each of those teams. In this scenario, Portland's going to be trading Damian Lillard to the Philadelphia 76ers. They'll get back Tyrese Maxey, who is not on a big contract in comparison to Tyler Hero. He's going to need a new contract soon. But right now, I think that Tyrese Maxey is a better overall asset than Tyler Hero and just a more interesting combination alongside Scoot Henderson there in Portland. He's got higher upside, in my opinion, and is really, really good. His ability to shoot the ball is really intriguing alongside Scoot. And I would rather have him if I was Portland over Tyler Hero. Philly is a little bit limited in terms of what draft picks they can trade, but they would throw all the other picks and all the other swaps into this deal to get Damian Lillard there alongside Joel Embiid. They would have the opportunity to pair him with Tobias Harris as well and put together a very interesting roster. Portland still gets a lot of stuff back, and again, I think the player asset there is better than what Miami can offer them. Philadelphia in this scenario is getting Damian Lillard, but they're also doing something else. They're going to solve their James Harden problem by sending him to the LA Clippers. And in this scenario, the Harden deal that has been rumored in exchange to the Clippers actually makes way more sense. The problem with James Harden trade scenarios, specifically to the Clippers, is that it doesn't return a star to the Sixers. You trade away Harden in exchange for a couple of wings, and then yes, you still have Tyrese Maxey there who's very good, but he's not on the level of someone that is going to help you push for contention as the main perimeter creator. However, now Philadelphia has that guy. They have Damian Lillard, who not only is one of those great perimeter creator guys, but is better than James Harden is right now by a significant margin. And so now all of a sudden you can trade James Harden to the Clippers, and it makes sense to get back a couple of wings, to get back Terrence Mann, Marcus Morris, whatever the case may be, whatever the deal needs to be. You don't need a star in exchange for James Harden. You don't need a ton of draft picks in exchange for James Harden. And that works out really well in a Clippers scenario. And now you have this really, really good roster construction in Philly. Lillard, Harris, Embiid, PJ Tucker, a couple of wings that they need now that someone like George Niang has left the team. And that is arguably the most complete roster construction in the history of the process era. Yes, it cost them Tyrese Maxey, but it also solves a really significant James Harden problem for Philadelphia right now. And then, of course, the LA Clippers. They get their perimeter creator guy. He's just as unreliable as Paul George and Kawhi are, except for James Harden, it's decision-making in terms of which team he wants to play for, whereas for the other guys, it's injuries. And yeah, there's risk there because he's going to be a 2024 free agent no matter what you do, and he's getting older, and there's downside to this. But the Clippers are in a position where they're okay with taking a risk because they're already taking so much risk as it is. They've got a new building opening up next year. They can't afford to just trade away Paul George for some stuff and be a decent team. They need someone like James Harden. They have the defensive infrastructure. They're still going to have plenty of wings left over that can build a group around Harden that can guard. And suddenly, that Clippers team is incredibly intriguing. Say what you want about the Paul George-Kawhi combo in terms of their durability, as well as whatever you think about James Harden as an individual player. Those three guys together, while only giving up a couple of wings in exchange for Harden, is a really interesting and, in my opinion, highly competitive team if, everybody say it with me, everybody's healthy. And to me, this is as much of a win-win-win trade as you can possibly have that solves both the Dame problem as well as the James Harden problem. The biggest issue to me here is if there's another team out there that offers more in exchange for Dame and or Philadelphia isn't exactly where Dame sees himself. Obviously, Miami is his top choice. There's plenty of reasons for that. And Miami can give up a good amount of stuff. And if Portland views Tyler Hero as a better trade asset than Tyrese Maxey, I think that's a mistake, but if that's the way they view that situation, it becomes increasingly difficult for Philadelphia to make this move. There's also been reports that Philly might not want to move Maxey, even if it does mean that they're bringing in Damian Lillard. That would surprise me, if I'm honest. I've seen those reports, but that actually being true would be surprising to me, given the Harden situation, given the way things have developed recently there in Philadelphia. The roadblocks to me would be Philly including Maxey in the trade. It would be Lillard wanting to go to Philadelphia. It would be Portland viewing Maxey and some other stuff, given Philadelphia's limited draft pick compensation they can trade back. Those are the roadblocks for this deal, but I think win-win-win for each team. It positions Portland fantastically for the future. It puts Philadelphia in a situation where they fix their Harden problem and they're still contenders. And the Clippers, in my opinion, suddenly become the most interesting team in the entire league. There's not a ton of risk in trading for James Harden if you're just giving up a couple of wings, most of which are already on expiring contracts anyway. And that's the hardest part to solve of the entirety of the offseason is what to do with James Harden. Now, I will say there's some really interesting Dame trades if you really want to expand the destination possibilities. I think the Pelicans are unbelievably interesting if they want to revisit the Zion in exchange for Damian Lillard thing. If I'm Portland, that's the team I'm calling first. I want to see if Zion's available. I understand the risk of the injury and the contract and all this different stuff, whether he'd be happy in Portland. But if I can get healthy Zion with what we saw from him when he was actually playing, pair that with Scoot, pair that with Shaedon Sharpe, that's the first team that I'm calling. But if I really want to solve all the issues of a couple of different teams around the league, this trade on screen here is the one that I would make.